How deeply rooted is DEI in the Alamance County Chamber of Commerce? We'll look into it right after this. If I were to ask you what is the purpose of the Alamance County Chamber of Commerce, you would probably say things like to assist existing and aspiring business owners, to assist in bringing new industry to the county, to assist in training the next wave of workforce workers. And all those things would be true, and several more things. But I want to show you that a major tenet of their strategic planning is DEI centered. Let me show you how deeply woven DEI is into the fabric of this organization. First thing I want us to look at, though, is I want us to look at what DEI is. And one of the people that I would encourage you to read about concerning DEI is Christopher Rufo. Christopher Rufo wrote this book, America's Cultural Revolution, How the Radical Left Conquered Everything. And in this book, he gives us a history of these details. And I find it interesting. I'll be returning the book in probably a day or two. I've almost finished reading it. And so I would encourage you to check it out. But let's go ahead and get into what Christopher Rufo states about DEI. Notice he says DEI is a soft and friendly acronym for a hard, divisive ideology. It assumes that disparities in outcomes are the result of systemic oppression rather than individual effort, cultural factors, or other variables. It promotes policies that prioritize group identity over merit, often leading to resentment and inefficiency. We're going to come back to that acronym for a hard, divisive ideology, because when you see the DEI in the chamber's wording, you're going to say, oh, that's so soft and so nice. But let's continue on. Secondly, Christopher Rufo says, the DEI bureaucracy is a machine for enforcing ideological conformity. It's not about fairness or inclusion. It's about power. These programs create racial hierarchies, scapegoat groups for their success, and undermine the principles of meritocracy and equal treatment under the law. So without further ado, we're going to turn our attention now. I'm going to show you a little bit about the Alamance County Chamber of Commerce, and just to show you how deeply embedded DEI is into the fabric of this organization. So now let's turn our attention to the Alamance County Chamber, and I want to show you the board. Here is the board. I believe this was the board that I believe it may have been is the current board. But what I want to show you here is the vice chair. I want to show you this. In 2020, the Alamance Chamber voted to implement the vice chair position of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they appointed Tammy Cobb as its in that position. She is the executive director, I believe, of the Alamance Arts, and we'll be looking into that as well. But notice they created this vice chair position in 2020, showing their dedication and determination to it. And so they appointed Tammy Cobb for that position. But secondly, I want to show you that this is their DEI statement. This is their statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And don't forget the words of Christopher Rufo, who stated that they use soft, friendly language. And if you read through this, you're going to just be overcome with excitement of how everyone is just treated so equally. But that is not the case in this area of DEI. And I would encourage you to scroll to the very bottom of the website, and there you can actually download the official statement on diversity, equity, inclusion, which is right here. But it looks really good when you're scrolling through it. But the question is, how is it being implemented? Well, that's what we're going to be looking at right now. And I want to show you just how important it is in chamber life. Because in 2024, when the President Reagan Gorell was putting forth the annual report for 2024, she found it so vital, so important to include in the letter from the President and CEO, this second paragraph here. And I'm going to show you right here. She includes this in the second paragraph. I'm going to try to blow it up a little bit here. And typically when you send out your 2024 report, the annual report, you emphasize things that are important to you. They're important to the chamber. And so let me show you. Here's Reagan Gorell. Here she is. And so here's what she included. She said in 2024, the chamber board continued to focus on our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. Staff and volunteers continue to evaluate programming through a lens of inclusivity, education, and awareness, equal opportunity, collaboration, and accountability. Our team has worked tirelessly to provide relevant programming, and we have made great progress in engaging new businesses throughout the year. So she's talking about, and listen, this report details our strategic initiatives and the impact. Well, it appears that one of the most strategic impacts that you're trying to make on the Chamber of Commerce is this issue of diversity, equity, inclusion. Again, as you read this, you're going to see it as soft, charming, nice, let's all get along language. But I want to show you one area that it is really shows a big issue here. Okay, so here we have the class of 2026 leadership Alamance application. And if we scroll through the application, everything looks normal for the most part. Program requirements, instructions, everything you need to do, personal data, your information, their cell phone, preferred contact, hobbies, interests, relationship, emergency, are you a previous applicant? But then it comes down here to this optional demographic data. So it wants to know what your gender identity is. They want to know what your gender identity. How do you identify yourself? And this goes back to their inclusivity. They want to know how you how do you identify yourself? Secondly, they want to know your race and ethnicity. Third, the date of birth is fine. But then they want to know your sexual orientation. I encourage you to Google, what are the options for sexual orientation? What is your orientation? And I looked them up, and oh my goodness. Again, this goes back to the idea they want to be inclusive. They want to, instead of looking at meritocracy and things of that nature, they're wanting to focus on these issues that they say creates diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to see that in just a moment. Then they talk about the disability. Everything else looks fairly normal on there. But let me take you to this leadership Alamance page here. And I want to show you on here, this is the leadership Alamance. And I want you to notice something about this. They talk about being diverse, being equitable, or fair. Well, I'm going to show you what their fairness looks like right here. I've highlighted this area right here. And notice what it says here. It says, let's start at the top. We are committed to making the program accessible to all potential participants. Committed to making it a program accessible to all potential. But there's a tuition fee to participate of $1,300 for chamber investors and $1,625 for non-investors, which includes 1 year. This covers the full cost of the program, including transportation, retreats, meals, and activities. Now, here we go. Now, here goes their, this is where their inclusivity, what they call fairness, their equity. Notice they say select tuition assistance is available to ensure financial constraints. And I mean, so far we're okay, except the word select. But notice they want to make sure to ensure the financial constraints do not hinder participation. Okay, well, that's great. But notice how they continue, particularly or specifically. Now, here they go. Here they are utilizing this language to justify discriminating against a person because they are not from an underrepresented background or organization with limited resources. So notice they're going to focus on underrepresented backgrounds. Now, who is that? Well, you need to Google that and look that up. Who are considered underrepresented? And I will guarantee you, many of you who are watching this video will see that you may not even be given that special or particular treatment in order to join this leadership Alamance class. And let me say this, there's a lot of people, I think last year they graduated 37. There's a lot of people who are going through this class. And I think part of the leadership teaching in this is to teach them and to instruct them in DEI. I would encourage, if anyone has a syllabus or any paperwork or any words that they would like to convey in a private manner, Alamance County Talks Politics at gmail.com. Just give it to me. All of your information will remain quiet. But I'd like to know, what do they push here? What are they encouraging in this DEI class? That is the question that we want to know. What are they actually pushing? Is the Chamber of Commerce really about just financial, economic matters in Alamance County, or are they more concerned with DEI? Because it seems like, according to Reagan Gurrell, this is a very vital and important part of the Chamber's work. And it seems to be that it is woven into the very fabric, every piece of fabric that the Chamber engages itself in. Let me say one more thing. I believe the Chamber receives, if I'm not mistaken, Someone has told me they received taxpayer dollars from the Alamance County taxpayer, $125,000. You may be funding an entity that is really not reflective of what you think ought to be the focal point of the chamber. Let me encourage you, contact your Alamance County commissioners. Ask them, how much are we giving to the Alamance County Chamber of Commerce? Why are we funding a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, when we really need to be focusing on and funding meritocracy? Those people who work hard, those, no matter what color of melanin you have in your skin, doesn't matter. Whoever they are, that's the person that should be focused on and given an opportunity. People who work hard, and we need to support that. So anyway, let me encourage you to call your county commissioner, ask them if they know, and ask them about this. And if you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the comment section. Also, you can email me at alamanccountytalkspolitics@gmail.com. But until next time, take care.